All this also moves forward in another direction. It's called legislation. Legislation is very powerful, okay? And the guy that I'm going to bring up, he is fighting. He's running for Congress for the first time. He won the primary as a Republican candidate in this District 7, running for congressman. He had 2,700 more votes than any other Republicans ever had for District 7. Guys, this man's a father, he's a fighter, he's a warrior, he's a business owner, and he's a man that's going to get the job done. And I want Josh Barnett to come up here and tell everybody how he's going to help us change America.
I see a lot of signs out here that say God wins, and I'm a believer. And I believe that God puts people in your path along the way. And when I first learned about sex trafficking and what was happening, I was sitting in Senator David Farnsworth's office, state senator, and I met a guy, Marty Lynch. I also met a friend of mine, David Jose, who's been fighting sex trafficking, a lot of CPS-related issues. Now, I bring that up because we have a lack of due process. Due process goes all the way back to the jury of the peers, back to the Magna Carta days, in 1215, that far back. We have in our CPS and our foster care, DCS, whatever you want to call it, around the country, but 88% of kids saved out of sex trafficking go through our foster care services. Not 8%, 88%. So what do we do about it? Why is that happening? One of the main things I saw after I dug into it and talked to people is that the lack of due process in our courts. In 2005, we used to have due process in what I call DCS or CPS courts. 87% of the kids got returned home to their parents for stuff like Cheerios on the floor. I mean, literally that ridiculous, that they would take kids from a home. Now, there were legitimate reasons why we have CPS, right? Kids getting beat, abused, et cetera, et cetera. But they took the juries out of these courts, and guess what the percentage is now that are returned back to their homes? 0.04%.
Are you kidding?
So think about that. 0.04% of return back. 87% when we had a jury of our peers. Now, why is this happening? Well, I believe that we have legislation that's been here in Arizona that's been tabled repeatedly, that was written by Martin Lynch that's here right now. And you can look it up, and I encourage everybody to get involved and look it up. If you go to azledge.gov, you'll see a bill, SCR 1049. And what that is we're trying to install due process back in these courts. That's simple. Another one is SB 1677, and that has to do more with the family court system in general. Now, what do we do to fix this problem? What I see happening is that things are being monetarily incentivized from the top down. When you remove a kid, that DCS is getting $5,000 to $8,000 per kid per month. Okay? Now, when you take kids out and it's part of a corrupt, what I feel a corrupt system, because when you involve money with our government, we all know how that works out normally. I believe that when you're going to remove a child from somebody's home, that's the most cherished thing in your life is your kid. And I don't feel a single person should be the one to decide whether that happens or not.
That's right. That's right.
I see stuff, we have DCS workers in Arizona wearing pink t-shirts that say professional kidnappers on them. It's unacceptable. And I can't do what these warriors have done from that perspective, but what I want to do is from a legislative standpoint to fix the problem. And the first thing to cut that conveyor belt off of those kids through foster care that are getting, the 88% that are safe in sex trafficking, how do we fix that? We put due process back in the courts. It's that simple. The numbers show it from when we had it, from when we to now. So That's one thing we can do. And that bill that's in there, how many people here have called their legislator, the state legislator, the House representative, the state senator, and demanded that something be done? Has anybody, raise your hands, people that have called. Not very many. So we can sit here and complain and rah-rah all we want, which is great, because it brings awareness, right, to the issue. But unless we address it with these people over here, it's not going to get fixed, period. So you need to call your people, look up who your legislative, your legislative districts, your state representatives, call them, email them, harass them if you have to. Call your governor and tell them you want things changed. You want due process back in these courts. They've had this bill sitting there and they've tabled it, and it has to stop. Now, I'm gonna invite real quick. I'm gonna invite a friend up here real quick. Her name's Priscilla Marquez. Now, I don't know how many are familiar with her story. Here she comes. So when I met her, I wish I never met you, because everything would have been a lot better, right? But when I met her, and the reason why I met her is her daughter was taken, and family was taking care of them at the time, and they removed her from the family that was watching her and given to a foster home or a foster family. Well, I'll make a long story short, but her daughter, Charisma, right here, was murdered and put in an attic for 2 years. Now, what's for me, what's even worse is the fact that this same couple that adopted her, killed her, was in an attic for 2 years and nobody knew. DCS they actually adopted another kid out during that time frame. And this is, again, there's so many different angles we can look at this, and I'm not saying, for me personally, people say to get rid of DCS, or we need to reform it. And the first thing we can do is to get due process back in these courts, because there's no reason, when I looked at the situation, her daughter should have been taken, I believe it was the uncle at the time, that was watching her. But they removed her because they make money. And that's what it comes down to, and that's what happens. So, I just wanted to introduce her, and because I want to keep her story alive. Okay, and I know it's a difficult story. We were there from kind of when it happened, and it struck me, my heart, my team's heart. We were there basically like the day after almost, I believe, or darn close, and I just want to keep that story alive, because this little girl is a prime example of why we need reform in our system. Not just here, but around the country. But it's going to take us, everybody together, reaching out to your legislators and saying enough is enough, okay? We need reform. We have legislation that can help, maybe not fix it 100%, but it's going to make a big difference. And we need this passed. So I need you to look up these bills on azleg.gov and call and demand that these be heard and voted on. Yes. The bill is SCR 1049. And SB 1677. Okay. Now, another thing, we have, luckily how I look at it, and I know I don't want to get too political, but we have a president now who's fighting pedophilia like never before. And like I said, when I see all these signs that God wins and God can follow His path. And I see another side that says, leaves under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that. We just need, guys, we need to fight back. And what you do is you call your legislators, you let them know we demand this, and let everybody else know that you demand this. Get these bills, put them on your social media, and get these people to quit tabling these and actually vote on them. Okay, and just one last thing. I'm going to keep these updated, these bills on my website. It's barnettforaz.com. We're going to keep them updated on there so you can look, just pull it up, we'll have a link, just click on it, it'll take you right to them. And we're going to keep any updates on there as well. and also a story involving her, because I want to keep this memory alive, because this cannot happen ever again. So thank you very much, and I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. Thank you.
God bless you, Priscilla. Thank you, Josh. We appreciate you.